Shemai, Sidachi, Croeso, Chris, Dowie, what is cracking, ladies, gents, boys, girls, anybody who just so happens to be anyone. Today we are talking about Fighting Fantasy Stormslayer. Now, before I go into the book itself, I just wanted to say I haven't posted for a while because I had the coof over Christmas, and it's genuinely taken this long for me to recover. You know, I think I came down with a chest infection straight after. It was top notch and I couldn't speak without coughing. So now that I'm finally okay enough to be doing these videos, I'm right back at it again. So let's talk about Stormslayer. So Stormslayer is 400 references, written by Jonathan Green and illustrated by Stephen, I've murdered the fella's name, by Mr. Player. And I have to say, it's honestly a really good adventure. This one is actually pretty good. Like I said, this is a new adventure. It was published back in 2009, and it was only published for the Wizards Shield series. There isn't a republish with the Scholastic series, and it is worth noting that this is book number 4 in this series in particular. Let's talk about the cover itself. Now, this is a Wizards Shield cover, and if you've watched any of the videos on my channel before, you're gonna know I find these underwhelming in general, and this cover is unfortunately quite underwhelming. I do like the artwork with the little watery fella. That's pretty cool. You encounter him in the book, I believe. But you know what I mean? It's like back in the day, back in the PS2 days, you'd have like the original classic cover, and then you'd have like PlayStation Hits cover with the silver outline. This really just feels like Fighter Fantasy Hits, that kind of thing, where a lot of the covers don't actually sell the book that well. I remember going into Waterstones as a child, looking for Fighter Fantasy books, seeing this book in particular, and being like, no, I don't actually want that, the cover looks quite bad. And yeah, I don't think the Wizard Shield covers actually sell the books very well, but that is just my opinion. I would put this dead last behind maybe a full art cover, or just like a hand-drawn illustration like with the old Puffin books. But let's move on to the story. Now, the story is actually pretty good. It does a lot well, if that makes sense. You got a day of the week system. You've also got to pick your own character from like a selection of characters, and they will have different individualistic perks, I suppose. For instance, one person has a dragon tattoo on their back, and that's all I remember because that's the person I picked. So that was really cool. It is 400 references. It is your standard Fighting Fantasy book, but the difference is Jonathan Green, he sort of illustrates the world with his words. You know, you sort of know what you're up against. You sort of know why you're there. There's always a contextual clue. If there's like a trap or something, there's always world building going on. You know, what you'll notice is that the short references, well, written by other authors, the references would be quite short, but there will be a few more paragraphs just to explain the world around you at the time, and it's really nice. There's a lot of storytelling, and as this is Jonathan Green's writing, you're going to be finding a lot of passwords as you go along that sort of checkpoint the encounters that you've had, if that makes sense. So for instance, you might encounter a Leviathan in the water, and then lo and behold you have a password which is Leviathan backwards, but you will get checked for that password to see if you've actually encountered the creature. I think this could be done to stop cheating, because I definitely know that if you just lie and pretend you have all the passwords, you can get yourself in some awkward situations. Personally, it's one of those things that I tend to be quite honest about. I do keep track of what passwords I have, and it creates a fun adventure, and that's the thing. This is a fun adventure. This feels like, it sort of feels like a game of, I don't know, Skyrim. Like the background footage is probably going to be. You know, you sort of know what's happening, whereas a lot of the other authors, it might be a game of D&D, where you sort of rely on the Dungeon Master, and then you got a text-based adventure, where you're just relying on the text. And that's really how I sort of describe a lot of, well, that's how I describe the other authors, you know, different eras. But this one, it's sort of nice, you know where you're going. But I am rambling on. So the story, it starts off with you in the town. You are somebody, and this massive storm, this massive hurricane comes over. Everyone's terrified. What do you do? Well, it's a silly question because you're thrust into the adventure. It's up to you, and that's the thing. From there, you sort of get off onto your own feet. You sort of try to figure out how to put a stop to whatever this is, and you do find that you sort of like have like a hub, where you sort of go to one location, come back to the hub, go to another location, come back to the hub. That's how I'm describing it. I think you just go from one location to the other, but you constantly have a choice of going to different locations, having different encounters. And how I describe this book is this like a collectathon, but you're collecting like Pokemon. And I think not Pokemon, but you get what I mean. And I think this has been done before in one of the books, including Zargo, where you have to collect items to use against them. I think it's a Zargo book. I don't think it's Spellbreaker. But it's good. It's honestly good. It's fun. You sort of go in and you're like, oh, well, I want to collect all these creatures to improve my chances of survival. Is it the Seven Serpents I'm thinking of from Sorcery? I think it is. And it's good. It's fun. It's interesting. It's unique. And, you know, without spoiling anything, because I think there's a lot of stuff that you're not just going to expect. You're just not going to expect it. So I'm not going to go too in-depth. But this is definitely quite a good book. And I personally quite like the encounters you have, because there's a Manticore. There's like a miniature Manticore, I think he's meant to be anyway. And it's right at the start, so I'm not spoiling anything. Not meaningful. I'm not spoiling anything big. But you fight a Manticore that's slightly weakened because he's been in captivity for ages, and it's really cool. It's just a nice little, I don't know, it felt like a nod, it felt like a throwback to some of the older books, but I think Manticores pop up at least twice, so it could be, it could not be, who knows, but it's just nice. There's also a Lovecraftian horror somewhere. I'm not going to spoil it where, but it's pretty cool. One thing I will say though is that the fights can be quite tough. I think there was a fight where the creature had like, what, 20 stamina? Now when I play, I tend to just instantly win the combat so I can get on with the story. But if I'm noticing that the combat can be quite hard, it can be quite hard. You're not going to have a lot of fun with these particular creatures. And I think there's also a mountain, I say a mountain, a volcano, and you have to get out before the lava consumes you. So there's like that time scale kind of thing that happens at the end of Legend of Zargo, which it is what it is. You might not like it. For me personally, I just got lucky, so I didn't really experience the worst of it. But I can see that being quite frustrating. And I suppose I don't really know what else to say, because this one, whereas with previous books, they felt more like adventures where you could talk about going to this particular set piece and the encounters and the characters and all the funny engagements, with this one it feels sort of like a story. So, talking about particular set pieces feels like I'm spoiling a bit more. For instance, and this is a spoiler, there is a pirate ship that you go on. Is it a spoiler? And the pirate woman, she's quite funny. I quite liked her. I quite like the wizard that was on the boat with you that you bring along. But it does feel like I'm spoiling a bit more than I would be with previous books. And like I said, that's because Jonathan Green does a fantastic job at actually sort of telling a story as well as an adventure, you know. But I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully it entices you to actually pick up the book, have a read, have a great adventure, you know. You know, I'm going to go back into the swing of it. Don't you worry. We got another book in the Wizard Shield series to talk about called Night of the Necromancer. This one is actually quite thick and I quite like the cover. It's pretty cool. And then I might do maybe like just ranking all the Wizard Shield books in order, because there's not many of them. And those videos seem to do well. But yeah, you know, the book is actually pretty good. The book is pretty good. I think it's worth picking up. Especially if you just completely ignored the Wizard Shield series. If, like me, maybe you were into the original Wizard series, then ignored the Shield series for whatever reason, and you're just feeling nostalgic, then it's worth picking up Stormslayer. It is a really good book, and per usual, Jonathan Green does actually provide a pretty good adventure. But you know, that said, I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. And for the next week's video, it is going to be Night of the Necromancer, but I've also bought all the Scholastic books that I'm going to cover, including the newest one, written by Rihanna Pratchett, I think her name is. The book is called Crystal of Storms and has a cat thing followed by a sad-looking cloud, but I am digressing. Stormslayer is a pretty amazing book. It is fantastic. It is 4 out of 5, you know. I sort of avoided the Shield series because I thought, oh, the covers do actually sell the books, and the covers aren't very good. But no, I was pleasantly surprised with this one. It was actually pretty good. Then again, it is Jonathan Green, who has like quickly just become one of my favourite authors for the series. You sort of know what you're getting there. But yeah, that's about it, guys. So hopefully you're here for the next video, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully if you are thinking about buying the book, you've seen this video and you've gone, well, I might actually just get it now. So yeah, without further ado, hopefully you have a lovely week, a lovely day, a lovely night, a lovely whatever, and I'm hoping to see you next time. So without further ado, take care, goodbye.